Now, here's more of the Mike Buck Show on AM 690 and FM 94.3. The Answer.
You got it. Thank you, Chaz. Now you're up to speed, and now you know everything you need to know on the radio, right? I'll tell you what we're gonna do. I normally reserve this particular piece of music for the guy that's gonna join us next here on the program. However, today it might be a little bit more appropriate if we play this for somebody else. As a matter of fact, I was really touched by a piece that Riki Ellison from the MDAA wrote about his friend Senator John McCain yesterday. So much so that I reached out to find Riki. You know, we talk a lot about a lot of other things most of the time, including football and good fun stuff. But today, we lost a true patriot. And I know that he was near and dear to the heart of everybody in MDAA, particularly Riki. And I told you about a really neat picture that I have showing Senator McCain and Riki speaking at an Arizona reception of champions. And that's what John McCain was. So let's remember him a little bit, and particularly on how he got hooked up with our friend Riki Ellison way back in the day. Top of the morning to you, Riki. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. From a very humid Washington, D.C., and a town that's all mourning the great senator, all, including our president.
You know, one of the things...
It's just been a bigger impact than most people have ever thought that he's getting this kind of response.
Well, one of the things that I recognized in the very beginning yesterday, and I told people that I was hoping that we could get in touch with you, is that even though this guy knew all about everything with regards to warfare and has been in every department, I think he more than anybody else probably realized that what you and what others are doing in defense and missile defense was particularly the best route to go, and he said that often.
He did, and what you got to love about him, he's straight to the core. There's no BS around him. He is for the U.S. government first and foremost, and what he did as the chairmanship of one of the most powerful committees in the world, he did not take any pork. He did not do any plus-ups for any Arizona companies that were involved with the Department of Defense. That is just stellar in this day and time with the kind of stuff that we're seeing in Washington, D.C. over the last century, that he chose to do the right thing for the right reasons, for the efficiency of this government. And that's who he was. He was a blazer. He was a trailblazer. He was a maverick. And he did things, I think, a lot of the things that he did was for the right of our nation.
I agree with you 100%. He always, in my opinion, he took the high road. Now, I didn't agree with everything in the last couple of years, but, you know, that's just the way it is. Nobody agrees with everything. But here, what was interesting to me, Riki, is the relationship that you all developed. And the fact that here was a guy that is a real combat-oriented veteran. And, I mean, you know, having the toughest job of all, realizing a lot less men and a lot less people would get lost if we spend more time on defense. So what do you think got him interested in missile defense in the first place?
Well, I think he's always had a much bigger strategic picture for our country as a senior statesman, and obviously where he came from his father and grandfather, and certainly right there in the Pacific, where he always thought big. He always challenged and could get to the bigger problems instead of getting tucked down in the weeds. And a lot of the weeds is done politically because of where the department spends its money. And he was able to cut to the chase. And I think there's a lot of things. I mean, 5 years as a POW. I mean, talk about PTSS and talk about stress and talk about really understanding what really matters most in life. And that, I think a lot of his journey has come from that experience, and it bolstered him to become bigger, I think, bigger and more powerful and more of a legend than his father and grandfather, who were admirals.
Yeah, exactly, and big shots. Yeah, that's a great point.
He's overcome all of them.
Yeah.
And what he's doing and having the courage to take on a president of the United States, not just President.
He took them all on. Yeah, he took them all on.
Obama, he took on Bush, he took everybody on for the right reasons, and challenging Putin before everybody else wanted to challenge him, and challenging China. He's been a great patriot for the Pacific.
How
no
important,
question, and you know that.
That was going to be my question. How important was it to have, I mean, I already know the answer, but people need to hear this, that when you went forward with somebody, if McCain was behind you, walking through that myriad of mazes and pressures that we call the Capitol, I mean, how important was it to have him interested in what you all do? Giving his stamp of approval to everything.
He was strategically thinking, and obviously missile defense was tremendous to him in terms of going all the way back to the Bay of Pigs. He brought that back all the way to Kennedy crisis, the missile crisis there, and we didn't have the defense to deal with that situation, almost went into a world war. He brought that back. He brought that back at that event that I was with.
Yeah.
He is born with that strategic viewpoint of how important this is. And one of the great things he's done is he combed all the BS. Everybody that got into that Department of Defense had to be confirmed by him.
Talk about a gatekeeper, right?
He was able to draft who he wanted in there and who he didn't want in there, and he was able to play poker with that. So you're seeing what he put in there, because certainly the president nominated, but he confirmed who's in there right now and who's not. So you're seeing, as you know, a remarkable buildup of our defense again. A lot of our movement over the last 2 years, and you got to give him credit. He also put in the 3 NDA acts, the big National Defense
That's what I wanted to
Authorization
ask you about. That's it, right?
And he did it in record time. The last time we put one in that quick was in 1983. And so he's cutting all the BS, all the layers and layers here in the swamp. He's cutting that to make our country more efficient.
Doesn't it make you wonder who's stepping up? I mean, right now we have this great experience level of all of these guys that are either aging out or politically getting backed out or whatever, and we have all of this bickering going on. When's the next clear-cut thinker like McCain going to come along?
I don't know. And you know, it's interesting because our senior senators, they've been the statesmen. Senator Inouye, Senator Stevens, Senator McCain, because they don't need to dwell in politics. They're beyond that. So you got to look at some of the older guys. I think the young senators still don't have that credibility to pull. And that's what I don't know who that next senator is going to be. I like Dan Sullivan a lot from Alaska.
Yeah.
He's still very young, very supportive of Hawaii. But McCain's shoes are because you have to have courage to cross the party line.
Well, the
Not
interesting
many
thing,
senators don't cross the party line.
Right. That's what I'm going to say.
Because they don't get any money if they do. And this guy crossed the line many times.
Interestingly enough, you mentioned Dan Inouye and others, the World War II and then Korean War and then of course the Vietnam War with McCain. And of course we have the Gulf War and all of the subsequent actions after that, but it's a different kind of war. These guys it was one country against another country, not so much one philosophy about another. But talk about how Senator McCain knew the different facets and the different sides of the problem in that part of the world where he specialized in after Vietnam. I'm talking about in Taliban land. I mean, this guy knew it all.
He did know it all. He took a particular interest in understanding it all and getting down and getting that information from the troops, from the people on the ground to make those assumptions, and then could lead with it with authority. And so it wasn't a gimmick. It wasn't, getting votes. He was able to define the problem, understand the problem with his military heritage, and produce solutions for the problem. Sometimes they were counter to our foreign policy. Sometimes they were counter to our presidential policy. But he was able to shape those better than anybody, I think, in terms of looking at how to best do these things. And he was more aggressive, obviously. No-fly zone. I mean, a lot of the stuff the president didn't listen to, but he also understands the bigger fight. The bigger fight too. I think that we spent a lot of time on these small little fights with all those terrorist groups and over Hamas and Iran and all those things that have been funded. Where the bigger fight is China, and he knows that. And he challenged that, and that's right. From his father and grandfather. They knew that that's the beast that we have to compete with to continue our status quo. And he was on top of that strategically. He was on top of that with our Navy, especially getting those ships out and getting more emphasis in the Pacific. He led that charge. You know that. I think everybody over there in Hawaii knows how important that state was for him.
You know, and that being said, I mean, you had to spend, we had the pleasure yesterday, Ricky, of talking with a dear friend, Captain Jerry Coffey, who was a cellmate of John McCain's, and we talked to him for a long time yesterday. He's in Washington, D.C. right now, talking about, you know, these guys that would not get influenced. Who knew when they were tapping on the walls in a dirty, dungy little hole, here comes McCain, he comes out to be an expert in that entire part of the world.
Well, I'll tell you what else. I don't think anybody, I mean, how many can you count them in the hand that could have gone through that experience?
Yeah, really.
That John McCain went and led a normal life. And, you know, so that's spectacular of what he did. And there are some, you know, repercussions of it, just like the PTS guys. I mean, they lose them. They get angry. There's some things that experience has affected his judgment at some points and his personality at some points. You can't hide that. If you saw him, you know, he's got deformities from that experience.
Unbelievable.
That are marked on his body that he's had to carry through his entire life. And that's stunning. And how he's been able to continue to lead and be bigger than the torture and bigger than that situation.
Well, I want to tell you something. I was very moved at the piece that you wrote, and I want people to go to your website and take a look at what the nice people you wrote called the paper you wrote called Character is Destiny. I mean, I know you write a lot of speeches and write a lot of things. It must have been a little bit easier on this one because this guy is such a bigger than life guy. And I want
Mike,
that's what I'm coming around to. What seemed to be like an easy job probably was, oh my goodness, what am I going to say about this guy?
No, it came from the heart because he also, his last years, or his last 20 years, he lived in that ranch in that Verde Valley of Arizona where I was growing up, where there was open space, where it was America Dream, where it was the Cowboys and Indian reservations. Nobody's saying you couldn't do anything, and it was good old-fashioned American grit. He represents that maverick that breaks from the herd. He represents that the character he has is unquestionably one of the greatest of all time to get through those experiences and he had the courage. He had the courage, and he rode like the wind to confront anybody, including the presidents, that would stand and not go for the U.S. government first.
Very well said. And, you know, we're just hoping that somebody's going to be able to pick up the gauntlet and run with this. We know that there are people and leaders, future leaders out there, but he set a pretty high bench, didn't he?
He sure did, but I think he's inspired people that you can politically survive if you cross those lines and not just stay politically on one side of it. He's inspired many of us to see that. So we don't look at this country as either left or right, Democrat or Republican. We've got to be able to cross those aisles. And that's what's so crazy. But I mean, he may be the last one that's done this. I mean, we saw Inouye do it. We saw Stevens do it. We've seen all the great, even Ted Kennedy, all those guys were able to do it. But today it's very rare to see someone like this that will cross the party line for the good of the country.
Well, let's pray for a replacement, and sooner rather than later. But for right now, suffice to say that no matter what anybody thought of any specific or individual act or action or point the guy took, Patriot First, American First, and everybody else after that.
Absolutely. And we've got his ship sitting in that Pacific, and hopefully it'll come home to you guys in Hawaii. I know it's based in the 7th Fleet, I believe. But it's good. But what a remarkable man.
Thanks so much for joining us, Ricky, and we'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Okay, aloha, Mike.
Aloha, my brother. There you go, Riki Ellison, Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance. You better go check it out on the web. It's a great piece written by Ricky about John McCain.